up, everybody? So something that I'm going to try to do with this home video series is not make it too theatrical, not too dramatic. So just completely accepting each moment, each recording as it is, and going with the flow, which is our buddy over here joining us and knocking over the screen. Hey. Okay, so today's thoughts on consciousness is pretty interesting because I was actually just having a discussion and I loved it. It fueled so many thoughts and a lot of feelings. So I'm gonna go with that and kind of share a bit about how this awareness of unity and compassion has guided and led me through my life in doing the things that I do and understanding the world how I do, and even every day getting to know who I am simply from being able to observe, just to observe myself on a day-to-day basis, and just watching myself and what I think and how I feel and how I speak and how I make an impact on the world around me, which is, I think, what we're all trying to do, right? We're all trying to make a bit of an impact on the world around us, maybe at the world at large. And I feel like I can share with you a part of the journey of how I feel that I'm doing that. And that's very important to me because I feel that when I share with others how I have found myself in the world, making the world a little bit better of a place wherever I go, I feel like that I think that sharing that with others gives me a lot of inspiration as well. Because I know that there have been a lot of obstacles for me to overcome, and I have always looked at the world at this like sort of macro organismal type thing, that like if I'm experiencing something, then a multitude of people must experience this, so this must be a part of the human experience, and if I can overcome it, then I can help other people overcome it as well. I feel like that nature comes to us very naturally. However, there are barriers in this world, walls that we hit, obstacles that we face within ourselves, really, that keep us from being able to fulfill that purpose that we have, which is, you know, whatever perspective you're coming from, whether it's making the world a better place with your hands, calisthenically, or maybe for you that's going and speaking and making the world a better place through the words that you say and the things that you share with the world verbally, or the difference that you make philosophically, intellectually. And however that barrier is for you, right? Whether it's very hands-on, whether it's more intrinsic, theoretical, whether it is you guys are the backbone and you are the unseen heroes that are writing the cures and finding the science to help millions of people. I think that the obstacles that we all face are one and the same, and to be able to look at the world through a perspective in which we are able to diversify our abilities and also at the extent and the reach of those abilities, that to me is what I would say is looking at the world from a universal point of consciousness, from a universal standpoint. And so when I climb volcanoes, or mountains in Wyoming, I'm finding myself really connecting with the relationship I have with the world. And it is an undeniable thing when you begin to make that relationship with yourself, when you begin to connect with others and connect with, the world and nature around you. You're able to express yourself in a more authentic way, a more genuine and empowered way. And that's a beautiful thing, but it's also very complicated because a lot of people think that that comes with like responsibilities, and it does. It definitely does. But the first and foremost responsibility that you have is to yourself. And if we can empower ourselves to be able to express ourselves, not only do we make an impact on those around us, but we make an impact in our own lives. And the more I believe that we are empowered in our own lives, the more inevitably we inspire others to be empowered as well. The strength is something that's shared, and it is contagious. It is something that can surely spread, as I should say. It is something that can impact those around you so much so that they carry it with them onward with their lives. And I think that that kind of impact that we make on those around us is our legacy, whether that's something that's recorded in history or whether it's just something that you know in your time and space, in your point of history, you've made an impact. And that's a beautiful thing. So, Camila, why are you saying all that stuff? Well, this is why. Because I have found that when you center yourself in this universal consciousness, you find a balance between struggling, controlling, and surrender or release. And I think that the balance between those two things is that center is a unified consciousness, is a unity of consciousness. And the balance between those two things, balance in a dualistic universe and a dualistic reality, is what we can achieve on a personal level and on a societal level. So that's why when I say there were obstacles that I overcame, that I believe that many people run into. And that if I'm not alone in those experiences and those obstacles that I've run into, then that means that the experience that I have can not only help others, but that can actually help others and help me. It's a beautiful symbiotic relationship. And so if there was, for instance, a war or genocide that was experienced 50 years ago, let's say here in Guatemala, and you had volunteers from here in Guatemala go and help volunteers and the people in, let's say, places like Palestine, or the people of Chile going and helping people in Somalia. This is just a kind of like an example that I'm chewing on every now and then with my mind. And then the people that experienced that form of cultural genocide, that form of oppression, like Tibetans in China and Chinese-occupied Tibet, then the people that survived that 30 years later, their children, can go and help the people that are experiencing that now, so that in this place of displacement, instead of looking at the world from a lens of discrimination and separation, being able to connect what we experience with the experience of others, and helping prevent the same conflicts that we would have had seen in our own history. So, let's say you grew up in a household and your grandmother was always saying, well, you don't know what I went through to get here, right? And your mom does the same thing, and then you're like, okay, well, we're not there anymore, right? So why do we gotta be fighting all the time? Why do we have to be yelling all the time? Why do we have to be judging people all the time, right? And then that person decides, you know, I forgive my mother, I forgive my grandmother, I know why they're going what they're going through, and I'm gonna lead a life of compassion, and I'm going to guide my spirit, guide my lights to help others, right? And then you help a family that might be experiencing what your grandmother experienced. And that is the beauty to me of international humanitarian aid work. But that's something we can also do on a small scale as well. So when I was going through what I was going through, I realized, well, I can actually really relate to how these people are feeling now during active occupations, because I've heard the stories of what my parents came from and what my parents' parents came from, and I can kind of see the consequences of it, the dissonance, the trauma, and that's something not only do I want to heal from, but I would like to help others heal from. And then so there you have a generation of people helping the next, making the world a little bit better of a place and being the change that they had wished to see in their life. That's a little bit about the premise of what I do with EarthThreads International and how I hope to lead forward with my understanding of kindness and compassion and helping the world in practical ways. And I have found that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, that there are actually already avenues and people dedicated for decades to helping people and helping the problem. So EarthThreads International is focused on, for me, donating to charities that are already facing the world's biggest issues so that we can help provide change, right? So, hey, everybody, I want to introduce you to Canche. He is a puppy that we found in our garden, and he was very badly hurt. So we took him in, and we were looking for a home for him. Then Pancho feels like he has a brother, I think. A little bit, yeah. But Canche definitely has been through a lot, and we have tried to make this a very safe environment for him. So it's going to be very hard for us to let him go, but we are indeed looking for a home for him. Or isn't that right? Isn't that right? Yeah, we're looking for a home for you. Yeah, I know it's tough. But yeah, it's been nice having you, and we love having you here, and you're going to be with us for a little bit longer. And then you're gonna have your own home, where someone can love you, take care of you. But for now, I got you. For now, I'm gonna take care of you, yeah? So, one thing in the Bhagavad Gita that it states is that it takes a rare personality or a great yogi to see me in all things. This is what Krishna says to Arjuna. And I implore you, see God in all things. Try to see yourself in all things. And if you can see the self in all things, then you truly, really, really can attain oneness and unified consciousness. Yeah. And leading from there is a very good step towards compassion and kindness. That's a very powerful and very healing thing. Yeah. Big dog emotions. Yeah. You're a small dog with big emotions. But I got you. Pancho's right here for you. And yeah, Mama's here for you too. We love you very much. You want to go play now with your friend Pancho? You want to go play in the garden? Yeah? You want to go play in the garden? Pancho, do you want to go play with your friend? So that's my talk for today, guys. Again, another short video, but it touches base a little bit on where I am at right now, and a little bit about how I'm tying everything together to my own practices towards unified universal consciousness. And I want to share that every day is a step towards a practice, a sadhana, that brings me closer myself to reaching this attainable goal of unified consciousness. And I just want to start sharing that with you guys, how I do that. Today I chanted 5-6 rounds on the japa, doing the Maha Mantra, sang a little bit, and did a lot of gardening today. But there you have it. Today's thoughts on consciousness. And I got to introduce you to our little foster over here, which is super nice. Because we don't talk about the personal things going on in life, but you are kind of a personal thing going on in life. So, Camila, what was that you were talking about yesterday about Tibetan monks? All right, I'll tell you. So, when I was about 5, 6, I met a group of Tibetan monks. And those monks lived in an ashram. They lived in a house that they lived together as a community, and they treated it as a monastery. Oh. And my brother and I became very friendly with them. This is a story I've told many, many, many times. And I'll never ever get tired of telling it. And they were very kind to my brother and I, smiling at us all the time, and they introduced us to transcendental meditation. One day they invited my family over to their home, and we saw them doing sand mandalas in their living room in front of their front door, and it showed me a form of discipline and patience through an artistic medium and cultural tradition that I really connected with. And as a martial artist, I devoted my life to showing that kind of discipline. And I translated that understanding of transcendental meditation into shamanic practices, into yoga, into martial arts, into my academic studies, and even just my own fantasy mind, my own imagination. And I feel that because of that, I was able to come at a very young age to realize this sort of freedom from death, a lack of fear from death, for lack of a better word, to understanding the illusion behind death and myself, the consciousness, the thing that kept me separated from living forever. And when I came to accept that, I was about 8 or 9. I was crying. I was very upset. It was a very Eckhart Tolle moment. And then what I realized was that sadness was temporary because one day I would be happy again. But I couldn't necessarily just live for those happy days because happiness was also temporary. So I couldn't identify with either of those extreme emotions. So I started to think, okay, who am I? Who am I? What am I? And obviously you go through all the questions. Well, you know, I'm a girl and I live in this country and, you know, I speak English and, but that's not always going to be the same thing. That changes. One day, I'm not going to be a little girl living in Atlanta. I'm going to be a woman. And who knows, I'll probably be living out somewhere in the world with people that don't even speak my language. So who am I if I'm not those things that I think I am? And then I thought, well, if I think that I'm those things, then maybe I'm my mind. And I thought, well, that changes too. My mind changes too. Even morally speaking, I'm not a perfect person. So I'm not my morals nor my thoughts. I'm not my intellect. So then who am I? Well, in the same way that my face changes, in the same way that my thoughts will change, in the same way that my beliefs will change, so too will the body. I'll get older. And then I thought, if I'm not the body, and I'm not this looks, I'm not the looks, I'm not the person speaking the thoughts that I'm having, then who am I? And then I thought, well, in the same way that all of those things are temporary, that they change, that can't be who I am, something that changes, right? Because I am who I am. I thought, well, then death is also a form of change. And if those things are not who I am, then I am also not death. Then I am also not death. And knowing that I am not death, that I could not be death, I realized that though the body will transform, though that the thoughts, these things, they change, that there were things that were constant, and that was the conscious awareness. The awareness of the life, the observer of Camila, the observer of this life. And that there were levels of willpower and levels of free will that I had that guided me. But that fear no longer would. And from there on out, I was no longer afraid of death. Because I understood that death was an illusion and that so were these material things. And so I went on to understand consciousness from a new perspective and continued taking avenues and routes to learn about consciousness throughout my life. and to dedicate myself to a path of humanitarian aid work and disciplinic studies to be able to one day come to understand what it means to master myself and unified consciousness. So I'm bringing you guys on part of my yoga journey, which is talking about it, which is talking about what has led me here. And you guys will see me soon in the 11th annual Yoga World Championship. We don't actually know where it is. It's just November 8th. So I'm getting ready for that. And yoga is not always asana. Yoga is also scripture. Yoga is meditation. Yoga is mantra and breathing and breath work. So I'm cultivating a balance of all of those yogas so that I can come as strong as I can for the World Championship. And I can't wait to bring you guys there on that journey with me. With that being said, thank you guys and namaste. And until next time's Thoughts on Consciousness.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Om.